All right, we're live. Welcome back to the yoga chat. Hi, May. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. May and I have spent, it feels like the whole day together on Zoom. So
Talking about yoga. It's not a bad thing. Not a
it's
bad
not a
thing.
bad gig at all. I'm so excited to announce our guest today, Miss Presley. Welcome to the yoga chat. How are you?
I am so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I've been looking forward to this for like 2 weeks now, so I'm really pumped to be here.
Yay. It makes me so
Us
excited.
too.
Yeah, us too, for sure. It makes me so excited that you've been looking forward to it. So it's always a little background, another really fun conversation with someone that I don't know that well outside of the yoga space. So Presley and I know each other through yoga, and we met at the studio that I did my 200 hour at. And then there's been other connections where like she knows Catherine Gignac, who was on the show, and Presley and I are actually going to Tulum together in February for the retreat. Then I found out that she's good friends with one of May and I's friends that teaches with us at Yoga 6, Marissa Laird, and they like do double dates all the time. So Presley and I know each other from the yoga world, and then as the universe would have it, we are connected in other ways as well. Presley's also, which we'll get into. So Presley teaches yoga or was teaching yoga and also teaches solidcore. Oh, and also is a spin instructor. Oh, and also works a full-time job. So,
It sounds
Also a
crazier when
little
you
bit
say it like that.
insane.
so that's Presley in a nutshell. But no, we're so excited to have you and get to share your story with, the whole world who's going to listen and get to hear it ourselves because I know I'm definitely looking forward to learning more about you and your background. So, as always, we get started with the same question. What's your zodiac sign?
So I am actually so thankful. So I've been a long time listener and AKA since the beginning, since you dropped your first pod. And I knew you were going to ask this question. So I've known for so long that I was a Cancer. I'm a Cancer sun, which really resonates with me. Like I always feel like everything that's like added cancers on any social media feels incredibly personal. But then you asking this question made me look into my moon and my rising. And so I am a Virgo rising or no, a Virgo moon and a Scorpio rising,
Ooh,
which after further review also checks out.
All
yes.
three of us are Scorpio rising.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Well, apparently, according to the research I've done, and by that I mean like reading 3 websites, there's a lot of charisma to do with that. And so, like being someone who holds space for people and, both of you two being yoga teachers, sounds like it kind of aligns well with that.
Totally agree. Absolutely. Well, I'm glad you looked into it and found some
Yeah.
alignment. It's interesting. Virgo moon. I don't know much about like the moon sign. I say this all the time, but I know a lot about Virgos. That's my husband's sun sign. And I think that's probably where you get your organization and ability to manage 4 jobs, if not more. So it all
Yeah, I was. Yeah. That part also checks out. You're right. You're right. As I'm learning more about it, but the Cancer sign, like in terms of being like really sensitive and wearing my heart on my sleeve, that's definitely the biggest presenting characteristic for me. So, regardless of what any of the zodiacs say, I align most with Cancer. I feel like.
That's awesome. Cool. Well, how about you give us a little background on who you are, where you come from, and what led you to where you are in your life?
Yeah. So I was born and raised in Pittsburgh. 27 now. I've been teaching in the boutique fitness space for over 5.5 years now, which is so crazy to say. And honestly, my journey to becoming any type of instructor just truly happened in the most organic way. Like you can't even make up the story. It just so meant to be. I was in my final year of college at Pitt, and I was a finance major. Honestly, completely clueless. None of the internships I had aligned or felt right for me at all. And I'm like panicking every night at my computer, like, what am I even doing here? Like, what am I applying for? And I went to a new space that was opening in Lawrenceville, Zaversa Climbing Studio at the time. And my friend Jordan was like the head trainer there. And I finished like the third class in the intro trial. And he was like, so when are you teaching? And I was like, what? And he was like, you have to come teach. Like, you have to get on the mic. You were made for this. And I had always wanted to do something like that, but I feel like I needed someone who I looked up to be like, no, like, because I loved running. Like, I had run a marathon and done like a lot of like active things, but I had never really thought about being on a mic. And so shout out Jordan Rose. He kind of just took me under his wing and he was like, no, I'm going to train you. And by the time it was graduation night, I taught my first Versa climbing class that next morning. Fast forward a month later, and I was applying to teach indoor cycling. It's Energy. It had opened at the same time. I fell in love with that. And 2 months later, I was getting DM'd by Solidcore telling me they were coming to Pittsburgh and asking me to audition. And I didn't even know what Solidcore was. Like literally, it was just like, okay, this is cool. And I mean, it went from like 6 months time of not knowing anything about teaching boutique fitness to being like diving in completely headfirst, teaching 3 different modalities. And it's interesting because yoga didn't come in yet. I was practicing yoga, but I wasn't teaching it or necessarily thinking about doing a 200-hour training yet. But just like jumping into that world, by the time I was 22, I was teaching like 13 classes a week. And it was like I blinked and it happened. I didn't even plan for it. It just felt so right. And I still feel so alive. And so called to this work that like, I don't know. I don't even know how it happened. It just happened.
The way good things that are meant to be happen. So before we continue on that route, so you said that you majored in finance. Do you still work in the finance world?
I do not. And I actually never did. I work full-time in sales, which is a much better fit for me, I think. I guess I shouldn't say that without ever really having a finance job. But I honestly think that I just picked a major that sounded like it would give me a great job. Like I was like, you know what, that seems safe. I'm pretty sure that if I have this degree, like I won't not get a job out of college. But as it would work, I was like just walking out of the student union one day, and a recruiter for the sales company that I currently work at was outside getting ready to go to a recruitment event that I was not going to. And we started talking, and he gave me his business card and was like, you're interviewing tomorrow. And he called me every day for 2 weeks after that interview to ask me if I would change my mind and start working there. And I was like, you know what? Anybody who this persistently calls me to work at a job, I might as well give it a shot. And I honestly am so glad that I did, because I love working in sales, and it gives me the flexibility to do what I love, which is to teach fitness as much as I possibly can.
Quick question before we move into the yogas. Of the modalities,
Yeah.
the vertical climber, the spin, and the solid core, which one is your favorite to teach, or do you love them all equally, and why?
Mm-hmm. So I haven't taught Versa climbing for a really long time. Honestly, I just didn't have room in my schedule anymore. But I would say that I love teaching everything for different reasons. But my favorite currently, and what I usually tend to choose, is teaching cycling. And that is specifically because where I teach, it is all rhythm based and it is all music based. I call myself the human jukebox, like as a joke, but my friends, like, I just love music so much. And it's not even a specific genre or a specific artist. Like, no matter what class I'm in, I'm going to know who you're playing. Like, I just love learning about artists and playing music and really like creating an experience, basically creating an energy and an experience based on sound. And I think that can apply anywhere, but specifically when you're moving in alignment with the beat of music on a bike, which is exactly what the cycling studio that I teach at, its name is Energy Cycling, does. I just find it to be really, really powerful. And I think you can share a little bit more of yourself in there than maybe what I would typically do in a yoga class or in a solid core class. So that's how I feel about that.
Yeah, I've been to Zenergy and I'm familiar with that style of cycle. It's my favorite too. I feel like
Oh my gosh.
yeah, the energy that you can create, and it's like palpable in the room. And
Yes.
I love beat workouts and just being able to, it's in an interesting way, similar to yoga in that like you can turn your brain off and be exactly where you are. And you're flowing
Yes.
with this like energy that's just kind of outside of you. So maybe that's why the crossover between yoga and cycle, you know, for me at least, I love them both equally. I never taught cycle. I thought about it, but I get similar feelings from both where you're just so absorbed in the energy that you're creating that it kind of takes you to this place where I can't really find it anywhere else.
I completely agree with you. And I love that you said be where your feet are. And also, you need to come take my class. I had no idea that you had been to Energy
Oh,
before.
I love cycle. And I took his name and I follow him on Instagram. Oh, it's going to kill me that I can't remember right now, but he's amazing. And he was so fast. And like, I love a climb. I love to go hard and heavy. And he was just like, the entire time we were just sprinting for like an hour straight. And I wanted to die, but I also loved every minute of it. But yeah, I'm going to have to come take, are you in the East Liberty studio?
Yeah, I am. That's actually
Okay.
the only, so there are studios in West Virginia and Chicago, but this is the only Pittsburgh studio. So
Okay.
East Liberty. Yep.
I'll have to come give it a
Yes.
try. Cause yes, that is my, between yoga and cycling, those are my two, like I could get in that dark room and listen to the
Yeah.
music and close my eyes for hours.
That is so, that like resonates with me so much, just like being in a dark room, just like moving my body. But lately I've also, this is like kind of an aside, so sorry to go off topic, but I have been so into for like the past 4 or 5 months to another rhythm-based workout that I am not teaching, I'm just practicing, and it's the class by Taryn Toomey. I know Catherine mentioned it a little bit in her podcast episode with you guys, and I had sent her a message about it, and I was like, yes, that is everything to me. I it's also rhythm based. I don't, have you done it before?
I have not done it, but during the pandemic, I saw they started posting a lot on Instagram and doing like more virtual. And to be honest, like when you first watch it, I saw the ones where they're in the big room and they have the live drummers and everybody's just, it looks like a cult. It looks absolutely insane. But I totally get the feeling and how you can get to that place where you're just like in it. And I love that they created that because that's a good place to be. But yeah, it looks wild. If you don't understand, it looks insane.
I just took my parents for the first time in New York last weekend, and my dad and mom were like looking at me like, with everyone's screaming at the top of their lungs, like we're doing birthdays and chanting, and my dad's looking back at me like, what is happening right now?
Your parents are
It was
amazing for being willing
amazing.
to do that. My parents would literally murder me if I dragged them to any class, but let alone that class. My dad would, I don't even know. Actually, you should try it and video the whole experience.
I'm very lucky. They love all the workouts. They take all of my classes.
Well, that's probably how you ended up being the person you are.
I'm lucky. Yeah, definitely. Whoa.
Yeah, that's
I just
rare
dropped a
for
plant.
sure. I have so many questions. First of all,
This is going to go over an hour today.
first of all, I have not been to Presley's class, but Zenergy, and it's just because she teaches early in the morning and I didn't used to be an early riser, but I'm getting earlier now. So we should definitely plan
Let's
to
do
go
it.
to one of her classes. I Zenergy is cycling specifically, or cycling, yes, but Zenergy, excuse me, specifically is the only fitness modality that I've done other than yoga and dance that has brought me to tears. Like I'm in that room and when the instructor says like, let me hear you, like, it's not just like, let me hear you. It's like, everyone's like, ah, it's amazing. Like I have
Full
shed
body
tears on those
goosebumps.
hikes. Yes, full
It is
body.
such a starting space.
And
Yeah.
a fun fact about that space, my husband, the company that he used to work for, literally were in charge of soundproofing that room because the way that it's soundproof normally, it had to be soundproof differently because it's underneath an apartment complex. So
Yeah.
I was talking about it. This was years ago. I was talking about Zenergy and Matt's like, oh, I put in, that was such a bitch. I had to put in all those soundproof ceiling. We were up there in the shafters and blah, blah, and the rafters. I'm not even saying the right words, but even Matt knows how loud it gets in, like it gets freaking loud.
Oh, we blast the music. I remember the first year we opened, we would have so many calls from residents in that building. I'm guessing this is before he did his second job, where people were just like, absolutely not. It's 6 a.m. and it's like, so sorry. But I think we've got the sound under control now. Shout out to your husband.
Isn't that so random? So also before we
So
dive into
random.
yoga, I know that you mentioned, so you said that you love teaching all the different modalities for different reasons. And you know, when talked about how cycling tends to be your favorite, but can you talk about what you love also about teaching solid core and the climbing class that you used to teach?
So I will say that the climbing studio was a really nice entrance for me into it, but I haven't done it in so long that it kind of doesn't even feel, like as much of my journey. Like it was a really good start point. But as far as solid core goes, like I might as well bleed blue. I love that company so much. I literally like I don't even know how to explain how much solid core has changed my life. And it's not the workout that has changed my life. It is the incredible leadership team. Like we have the absolute best CEO. His name's Brian. I met him on my very first day of training. Like I just truly feel like even though it's now growing and there's over 110 studios, which a lot of people don't know, like that's not a franchise. So it's like all under one. Like started in DC and that we have a goal by 2028 to have over 250 studios and just like such an incredible driven personal and just like team and support. I have the best coworkers. We're all friends and so I love that aspect first of all just because I feel so lucky that starting a job at age 22, I like immediately found people whose values I align with so much. And so that's one main reason why I love working for Solid Core, but also just like, and you'll find this anywhere that I teach because I wouldn't be there if it wasn't, but I just feel like our community is so strong. The clients are absolutely incredible. Everyone cares about each other. We were just in a meeting this weekend talking about like a year in recap and they said what is like one word that you would use to describe your studio and I just said genuine and like I mean that it's just not a superficial place and I feel like so often you can find or think that that is the norm in boutique fitness or that it's like competitive or combative between instructors and things like that and I truly just couldn't feel more opposite especially with solid core so I think that's what I love so much about it and the workout's absolutely incredible too and it's going to get you so strong and feeling I think personally my experience has been feeling really really proud and confident but the biggest benefits to me have been way beyond physical strength.
I'm so glad I asked. That just gave me so many goosebumps. That's the juice.
Oh,
Me and Maya are smirking at, or me and Maya's my daughter. Me and Montana are smirking at each other because we both took a solid core class together, and it was my second time, her first time, but both of us were noobs. And it was a shit show. Like we were doing some like crossbody lunge, and we had sticks that we had to hold on to. And we were both like
Crossover lunch.
dripping. Oh, the crossbody lunge. It was, I mean, who was our teacher there? It was Claudette. She had long blonde hair. She was
that's amazing.
hilarious and
Yep.
talking about
Hilarious.
some ridiculous like date she was on the night before as we were dying in these crossbody lunges. And me and Montana kept looking at each other. And at one point, like we were, but like there was puddles of sweat under our machines. But like I looked around and nobody cracked, like nobody had one drop of sweat. We were just like the most disgusting people to ever walk into that place. But like when you're done, you're like, holy shit. What's that?
I said, I highly doubt you were the most disgusting people to walk into.
Well, you'd be surprised. Like it was not a pretty sight. It was really not a pretty sight.
I'm dying.
Afterward,
we both left. We were like, if you did that every day, you would be like, your body would be so strong. Like you could, a Mack truck could hit you and you wouldn't move. It's insane.
is what I said afterward.
I will say it does have a learning curve. Oh, I'm sorry, Montana.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say there's a learning curve. So like I understand and totally validate how overwhelming it probably felt. But I think that once the terminology starts making sense, then you really understand it, and you'll get there. My point to being, if you liked it, come back, and it really does have a really strong and fast learning curve.
No, we liked it. I mean, we both loved it, but it was just like we were both
humbled.
Very humbled. Yeah, extremely humbled.
It is humbling. It's still humbling. 5 years later, it's still humbling.
It's good to know.
I said afterward, I was like, this is the best workout I've ever done. Like people need to be screaming from the mountaintops how hard and challenging this freaking thing is. That's the best word to use. I was humbled. So shifting gears a little bit. So you were practicing yoga, and what ultimately led you to get your 200-hour? Because you were bored and didn't have anything on your schedule?
Actually, kind of. But I'm not even being sarcastic. So what happened was I've always practiced. So like my first experience with yoga was probably as a 15 or 16-year-old at my local LA Fitness. And it was, I don't even know like what style of yoga that would even be considered, nor do I even remember the specifics of it, but I just remember it being very much like a stretch, probably very yin, which was nice, but that's all I thought of yoga as, right? And then when I was in college, I, dabbled a little bit. I would take class from time to time at local studios, Yoga Flow being the first, like, I guess, quote unquote, real yoga studio I went to that was not like a part of a gym. And I liked it, but I still don't think like in college, I was really understanding the power that it could have in my life. And then I will never forget this. It was my, again, senior year of college. I guess a lot was happening for me at that time mentally. Like, I don't know. Yoga Flow did a 21-day challenge to practice 21 times in 30 days. And I love a challenge. Maybe that's what's it called? The moon. What's my moon sign? My Virgo moon. Loving the organization and challenge or something. Who knows? But I was like, I'm going to do this challenge. And I was listening to one of your earlier podcast episodes. I can't remember which one it was, but one of you had mentioned like, oh, it took me so long before I actually was able to listen to the inhales and the exhales in a yoga class. Like before I was just performing the motions. Mm-hmm. And me too. And by the end of that 21 classes in 30 days, I was no longer ignoring the like inhales and exhales or merely taking them as suggestions. I was actually like breathing the whole way through the class. And when I was able to do that, I just like will never forget the first class that happened. This like light just exploded in my brain. And it was kind of like, oh, that's what I've been missing, And that exact moment I can like pinpoint as when I started to make yoga a bigger part of my life, because I realized how powerful it could be when I was able to breathe and move my body like one breath per movement, and just like really sink into that.
That's awesome. So at one point, who did you do your
Oh my
tutoring?
gosh. I totally forgot the rest of the story. So anyway, so that happened. Then I'm so sorry. I was like, I loved it, the breath.
You're like, that's
Then
why
what
I love
happened?
yoga.
And I do. But so I actually like, and then life got busy. I started teaching at all these different studios. And then the pandemic happened and all of the studios I was teaching at shut down. And when that was all I knew as a quote unquote adult, I wouldn't say like I was like a graduated college human. It felt really lonely. And I like, that's where all my friends were. Everything was scary and shut down. And I started practicing online with the Om Lounge, which Suzanne Nagel was formerly my teacher at Yoga Flow, who I had loved so much as a teacher there. And I knew she had opened her studio, the Om Lounge, and they were doing live streaming. And I was struggling with my mental health and feeling pretty lonely. And started practicing on their live streams all of the time. And I just remember like DMing one of the teachers that was doing the live stream at that point. Her name is Alexi. She's also one of my favorite yoga teachers ever. She's currently, I don't know if she's like in retirement right now or just like not teaching regularly, but she's incredible. And I remember DMing her and saying, the next time you guys offer a yoga teacher training, I am feeling so called to deepen my practice and learn how to hold this type of space, because it has meant so much to me during this shutdown. And I mean, what I say, I signed up 2 months later, and then I graduated my yoga teacher training in November of 2021 from the Om Lounge. So yeah, I'm really, really thankful for it. It was wonderful.
That's awesome. What I love that I hear from like the overarching theme that I hear in so many of your stories, whether it be being being, what's the word I'm looking for? Like motivated by someone to start to put on the mic, as you say, and start coaching group fitness, all the way to like how you got your first job in sales, all the way to every other story that you've told us so far, is that like it kind of sounds like things just fall into place when they're supposed to. And the alignment of what your path is meant to be is just so clear and obvious. And it's really hard to deny that or say no to that. And I think, and in the beginning of, the first few of your stories, I was thinking to myself, like, I love that. That's so lucky. And now, as I'm hearing more about your story, I'm reminded that the reason that those things are presented to you is not luck. And I knew that deep down, right? But it's because when you're in a situation where you are feeling lonely, or you're recognizing that your mental health is struggling, or your boat rocks and there's this shift, it's so clear that you do whatever you need to, whatever you can in your power, to use the tools that you have to pull yourself out of that and to feel good again. And I'm sure that you've done that throughout your entire life, even though the only story that we necessarily heard so far is like during COVID, and you recognized this yoga thing makes me feel really good. And it makes me feel like I have this sense of community. So why not take it to the next level? And I think that
Yeah.
that's a testament to why things are so clear and why they fall into place, because for, and probably doesn't happen all the time because we're all human, but for most
Yeah.
time, like you do the things that you need to in order to propel yourself forward and in growth and expansion, which is, I'm not surprised by that at all, because you're Presley and you're
Mm.
Wonder Woman. So yeah, that's awesome.
Well, thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. It kind of sounds like you understand yourself at a level where when the finance thing wasn't working for you, you knew deep down this isn't right for me. This doesn't feel right. Um, why am I doing this? What is motivating me to do this? And then it's like you knew it wasn't right. And the next day you bumped into some guy on the street who was like, you need to come work for me. So yeah, in a weird
It
way,
sounds fake.
it does. And it's like, okay, you're a lucky girl, but also maybe it's just that you have like a deep sense of knowing what feels right in your heart and what doesn't. And that when people are able, and that's a whole different part of yoga, getting to know yourself. It seems like you already knew yourself pretty well before you even entered into your yoga journey, but knowing yourself kind of brings you to places that are meant for you more than running around completely lost in who you are and what you need from this world or from your day. So it seems like you've kind of got a hold on that really early on. And I was going to ask you, if you started doing yoga at LA Fitness when you were 15, were you like an athlete in high school? Are you just always drawn to like physical movement?
So I did cheerleading, competitive cheerleading, and I ran cross country in high school. Quite honestly, I wanted to join LA Fitness when I was in like 14, 15 years old because a lot of cute boys from my high school were members there. And I literally just wanted to go there and like run into them after school, which is such a 10th grade thing for me to say, but also incredibly true. But I will say this, I will never forget the first day I took a Zumba class and I was 15. This was before yoga. And I remember we had two laptops sitting on my counter in my kitchen in my parents' house. And I came home from that class and I sat down and I immediately Googled how old do you have to be to teach to teach Zumba at LA Fitness because I just thought it was so fun. I I don't like going to the gym. I don't want to lift weights. I don't want to be my like in like some like I don't know. Like I don't not consider myself a fitness. It's funny I'm always around it, but I don't think I'm in the business of fitness. I'm in the business of human beings. And thank God for that because I love human beings. And I consider that to be more of my work than teaching someone how to do a plank crunch or
Yeah, I
how to do a tap on a bike.
could not relate more to that because I don't want to go to the gym and clank around the heavy weights and like wear my headphones and whatever. I want to be in the room with the people, with the music,
Yes.
with the connections, with the feelings, with like the energy. That's a whole different thing. And that's what I never even thought of it that way. But yeah, I love fitness, but I always loved fitness when it was with other people, when it was like a group, and that energy that you can all like create together is just like that magic. And that's what motivates me to want to go to a group fitness class and not to LA Fitness to put on my headphones and do chest presses with all the big fancy guys. I mean, like I need I need humans and music, and that makes me happy.
I completely agree with you.
What'd you
But I
say?
also need to go back and correct the record because I appreciate so deeply what you guys were saying about me knowing myself and you know a lot of things falling in my way and I do think like I do spend a lot of time introspectively like does this feel right, does this align with me, but I also have been privileged enough to have a lot of access to mental health professionals since I was 11 years old. And, you know, being someone who was able to have access to both psychologists and psychiatrists and a lot of mental health care for a long time has helped so much in that. And so I just don't want to deny that the immense amount of privilege that's there because I know that's not always easy. And that's definitely helped a lot for me to know my in a way that's helped me to make choices that feel good in my body.
That's amazing. And it's
And
from what I'm understanding, like really formed you and molded you into who you are as an adult, which is incredible. Something that I would love to ask about, especially since you mentioned, you're not in the business of fitness, but you're in the business of human beings. I have goosebumps already. So last January, Presley, and she has no idea I'm going to bring this up, but now she probably knows what I'm going to ask. Last January, Presley posted on Instagram a picture of her with a cocktail and was like, okay, let me just preface by saying, like, there's nothing wrong with dry January. And if that works for you, amazing. Like, I'm cheering you on. But that kind of like challenge or like full teeter in the opposite direction doesn't work for me. And here's why. And I want Presley to talk a little bit about that, because when I read that post, I was like, I always knew that Presley was special. And anytime I saw her, I was excited to see her. And I could just feel that we were like connected on a deeper level than just like this person I knew in and out of the yoga studio. But when I saw that post, I was like, yes, fucking yes. And I'm pretty sure I texted, or not texted her, because I didn't even have Presley's number until we started planning this, but I messaged her on Instagram and I said something along the lines of like, everything that I felt for so long, like you put it into words and you just like abolished guilt and shame that I've had on not feeling in alignment with totally cutting anything out of my life because it doesn't feel in alignment or healthy to me. So, Presley, can you talk a little bit about like what that post said, and then like why and how you found out that like moderation for you with everything is the way to go?
Yes. And I like felt myself getting choked up when you even said that, because that post was kind of scary for me to make, because it's, you know, really so essentially, for anyone who has never seen the Instagram post, Montana did a nice job of explaining it, but I just know that in the month of January last year, at least, so many people, so many colleagues, so many peers of mine were posting about how they were going to abstain from X, Y, and Z, and kind of having like an elitist message around that. And for me, I have spoken about this publicly, but I am in recovery from anorexia, and I've been in strong recovery for about 7 years now. But for me, any type of black and white thinking is just a really slippery slope. And I want to be that girl so bad. Like, there's like a really big part of me that wants to be like, yes, no drinking and this and that. But for me, that is a really, really dangerous rabbit hole to go down. And I just felt like anyone who might feel that way, there wasn't really any space being held for them in the ethers of the internet. And I knew I was going out to dinner. A lot of good thoughts often come to me in the shower. That's like a total aside about me. I think that's pretty common for a lot of people, but I just like remember getting ready for that date night, and I'm like washing my hair, and I'm like, no, I know what I have to say. And I told my boyfriend at that night, I'm like, can you take a picture of me right now? Like, I need a picture at this table. I have a message that I need to share. And really, I'm so happy that it resonated with you. But what I think often the things that we say, and I don't know if this will feel true to you as well, but for me, often the things that I am saying are the things that I need to hear the most as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so in a way, me saying like, if abstaining from alcohol, or cutting out sugar, or going on the Whole30, or doing anything that is restrictive and isn't good for you. I see you, I feel you, I'm with you, I love you, I am you. And I just felt like that was such an important message for me. And honestly, the outpouring and response that came after, I probably was crying for the next 15 days with the messages I was getting. So and it also just feels good to know you're not alone when you share something so vulnerable. So yeah, it was, I'm really happy that I did that. And I also just want to say something else on top of it, because you were like, you had said, how did you find out that moderation was what's right for you? And I actually have to say, like, I reject the word moderation as well. Because I think a lot of like diet culture and a lot of marketing schemes that want to promote their diets also are now liking to use this trend word of moderation. And I mean, I could talk about this for forever, but like really what I think that the fact of the matter is, like, I find more that the word alignment is, or not alignment, the word intuition works better for me when I'm making a choice about like what I'm going to put in my body, what I'm going to do with my body. Um, really, like, moderation used to work for me, but I find that like that can even feel restrictive sometimes. So I just try to be really intuitive about what I need.
Ah, the juice.
That's the juice. I
Wise
actually
beyond your years.
literally just saw a video of a girl on Instagram talking about how she has such a sweet tooth that she has to make sure she keeps everything, in moderation. She goes, so for dessert, I'll be having 3 chocolate covered almonds. And I was like, is that what moderation is? Because like, I don't align with 3 chocolate covered almonds for dessert. Like, so, but yeah, that to me, that's like that culture of this is moderation. Actually, for a lot of people, I think that's restricting. And it just, like you said, if it works for her, fine. But that word does get thrown
Yeah,
around a lot in places where it doesn't actually make sense. And so I'm with
bingo.
you. I think that when you do things in moderation, or when you cut things entirely, it's probably because you don't have a good relationship with them to begin with. And if you can use your intuition to form those relationships instead of throw out big words and make big, cuts. And, it just,
Right.
I couldn't agree more with you.
Listen, I gotta live my life in the gray. I have lived a little too long in the black and the white, and I've I find that most of the magic and most of the release for me has been when I was able to really get deep into the gray, all the shades.
I'm with you. I'm deep into the gray and I like being there and I don't feel bad there. And I'm
No.
staying.
I'm learning
Was,
in the gray.
was your yoga journey part of what got you to be in that gray space where you felt like you could trust your intuition a little more in terms of the decisions you made for your body, about your body? Because I noticed, at least
Yeah.
for me, when I got really deep into my yoga practice and started teaching yoga, I started to, without even realizing it, it was just kind of a lovely side effect of being able to stay in this gray place where I was doing the things that felt good for me, but I'd never felt like I was restricting myself in a way that I had, previously. Because I think, especially as women, we all have had experiences and relationships with our body and with food and with exercise that aren't always healthy. And I don't think I know one woman in my entire life who hasn't had some type of a diet culture bad experience with exercise or gone too far into restricting themselves. So I've noticed, at least for me, that yoga was one of the things that got me to a place where I feel happy in that gray place.
Absolutely. I think yoga has been transformative for me in that space. And it deep down is probably one of the main reasons why I love it so much. So I couldn't agree with you more on that. And I think yoga just like makes me feel safe in my body. And like also I just love how I love like the way that yoga is taught in the experiences I've had. I know there are certainly some studios that are more militant like and more like you must do it this way, etc. I personally haven't had a lot of experience with that, but I will say, like, for me, um I've been so fortunate to come across so many teachers who are always just advocating for like every day it's going to feel different and every day you're going to need something different. And I know I certainly try to mirror that message as well, but it just feels so good to hear that sometimes. Like I just need to hear that.
Yeah.
And so yoga has absolutely been a big part of if not starting any journey for me, just like solidifying or just being another tool in my toolbox. Because I think in metaphors. So like put the yoga right into the toolbox and it's there.
I like that metaphor. I'm going to keep that one. I'm going to hold on to that one. I agree with you. I mean, I've taken a lot of workouts with, that, and it's not always bad, but there's the motivating instructors that are like, can you go harder? Can you give me more? And like, sometimes I love hearing that because yeah, I probably can give you more. I can go harder. But then I also really love going into a space where they're like, today might be a day where you need to pull back a little. And just having that word spoken, it's like giving me permission to trust myself instead of listen to someone who doesn't know me or what's going on in my life today, demand more of me without actually knowing what I'm going through or what I came here for or the intention behind why I'm even arriving in this place. So the first time I ever really felt that, we were in a yoga class and the instructor cued eagle pose. And instead of doing the crazy pretzel arm, she said, I'm going to grab opposite hand to opposite shoulder today because this is what feels good for me. And as soon as she said that, half the class did this. And her just not only saying that it was available, but modeling it gave everybody the permission to do it. And obviously those people needed it or wanted it and it felt good. But that was before I went through yoga teacher training, before I even thought about it. But watching her do that and watching the response, like actually, I think about it a lot while I'm teaching, because you've probably noticed too, as soon as you take the option, you give permission to the people to take it too. So I love that yoga specifically, most teachers, and I've been lucky to have those experiences as well. They offer that space and that permission to not always like, you must do more. And I love that.
Right. And I actually, I completely agree. Sometimes you just need to model and be an example. But one thing, like you said it, and it just like, it's something that I find so important. So while I have a chance to say it, I just, if anyone out there who does lead any fitness is listening, one thing that I always tell new teachers or anyone who asks for my advice, yes, it is totally valid to be, you have your own personality. If you want to be that teacher that is, looking to be more, this is what we're doing today, whatever, that's okay. But just like one big piece of advice I have for anyone listening is using the statement like, give me, or I want you to. I could not, I feel like this is something I learned very early on, and I completely agree with it. Making things about like, you guys know this, when we teach, like teaching is not about you. And so for me, when I'm teaching, even if the message is that day, we are going to go hard. It's never, I want you to add a turn of resistance. It's, let's turn the wheel up together. Or is there space for more connection with your resistance wheel? Not give me more. Like, how about give yourself more? And so I just like, I'm glad you said it, because like I've heard those teachers too. And we're all doing the best we can, and we're all learning as we go, myself included. I've probably said many things over the 5 years that I would want to retract and or revisit. But that's definitely one that I try my best to avoid. So for any instructors out there, it's my like biggest tip for anyone.
I totally agree. I've been in those spaces, and and it's one thing to be an instructor. You're always everyone's going to say something wrong at least once, probably way more than once. And it's not out of bad intentions but there's sometimes in the moment, shit flies out of your mouth and you regret it immediately. And all you can do is move forward. But then there are instructors where you walk in the room and, like habitually, they are the celebrities of that room and you are there for them. And they are up on the pedestal or the front of the room and they're performing for you. And they are the center of the show. And it takes a little while sometimes when you're new to it to tell the difference between those instructors and the ones that are there for you and not the people that expect you to be there for them, but it makes a big difference. And I think that the energy can shift entirely when the instructor makes it about themselves and doesn't focus on even those little tiny bits of language that you said. There's ways you can word things that make the class more empowered in their own body, and to know that it's for them and this is their time and they came for them, whatever day they're having, they decide how this experience goes. And like you said, there's even subtle word changes you can use that will empower somebody versus make somebody feel like they're being belittled. Or, I mean, I've seen those where, and I'm sure the instructor was good intentioned, you know, to motivate, to make you challenge yourself, but there are ways that you can belittle a person and make them feel small. And that's not why anyone comes to group fitness. They come to feel empowered and strong and to get out of their head for an hour. So I'm glad you said that too. Just the very simple language shifts you can use is important.
So on this topic of teacher versus student role, Presley, how the hell do you stay a student since you're constantly holding students? Because I know you do.
Yeah, honestly, it's hard. It's hard, but like it's such a priority for me because I love the places that I teach and the things that I do. Like I would not be doing them if I didn't believe in them so much. And so for me, like I have to make time for it. Really, like I said, I do work from home full time. And so that is really, really flexible for me, meaning that I do have a little bit more time, but I also have to be so scheduled. I don't like the word discipline. Gives me like a weird feeling in my body. But I don't know why. I can't explain it. I should probably talk about that somewhere else. But so I won't say that I'm disciplined. But I will say that I prioritize the things that make me feel alive. And so I try my very, very, very best to at least practice yoga once per week. I do a pretty good job of that, but also like, and I try to do, you know, nobody needs to have numbers around how much exercise I'm doing or things like that, because it's so unique to every individual. But I will say that like one thing that I've learned is that it doesn't need to be a 90-minute workout or a like forever long thing for you to reap the mental and physical benefits of moving your body. And so realizing that has allowed me to stay active and stay as a practitioner as well. Because, you know, some days it's something that takes a bit more time. And then some days I'm like, you know what, I am teaching 3 times today. I've got my job and all I have time for is 30 minutes. And I am going to maximize these 30 minutes and really like give myself time. And so I really do prioritize it. It's on my, I have a written to-do list every single day. And that's always at the top, is finding a way to move my body, in a way that feels good for me that day. So, I would say just prioritizing it. Like there's no like secret method. It's different times every day. But for me, it's such an important part of my mental health too. So, and also I just love my people. I love going to Montana's class and giving her a hug and practicing there and learning, right? Like the quickest way to stop growing is to think you know it all. And so for me, when I'm taking classes, like I try to take classes with people that I respect and want to learn from. And you can learn so much from others and find things that resonate with you. And so, yes, I'm taking class to be a student, but like also I'm taking class to be a student as in like learning, you know, that cue was incredible. I can't wait to use it. And that song was amazing. Please share it with me. I'm going to put it in my next class, like whatever it is. So yeah, it's like multifaceted for me being a student.
Cyclical. Amazing. Well, that leads us to our last question. Somehow, some way, these hours always fly by. But Presley, do you think yoga can change the world? Yes or no, and why?
I absolutely think yoga can change the world, but I would like to, I've heard you obviously ask this question, and I was thinking, talking about it on a macro level doesn't really feel right to me. I think yoga can change the world on a micro level, meaning that yoga impacts me, which impacts someone else in my life, which hopefully positively impacts someone else in their life. And I don't think yoga, in the way, I don't think a warrior two is going to change anyone's life. But I do think that the lessons in the yoga room and the breath and the way that we all have spoken to yoga changing our own individual lives impact directly the people who we love. And hopefully that creates a chain reaction or a domino effect to eventually create that macro effect we're looking for with yoga. But I think yoga can change. I think let's start small, and yoga has the power to change the world. Absolutely.
Get more people on the mat, baby.
That is the
Yeah.
juice.
That is the juice.
Putting an
Presley.
orange on one of those press things, and I'm squeezing it.
Ah,
Coming out is out of Presley's mouth right now.
Uh, well, Presley, I just want to say, like, I'm trying to find the right words. It's not easy, but I feel like all that you are on a soul level is just like it exudes from your pores, and it's so obvious and it shines so bright. And like I've mentioned multiple times, like I barely know you, but I feel like I know you so well. And everything that you've shared tonight, I feel like I've heard before from you, even though I haven't, because like you really do live with your heart on your sleeve. And I don't actually know what that saying means, but for what I mean right now, it's what I mean. Like you exude you exude everything that your soul is. And I think it's so fascinating too. I have to mention that like the word you chose for your community at solidcore is genuine. Like I think that's just you to a T, and you're just the epitome of genuine. And I'm just so grateful that we got to have this conversation with you. So
Yeah,
inspiring.
you're
thank
not just saying the words, you're doing the things. And
Yeah,
that's obvious.
hardcore, like real hardcore doing the work. So kudos.
thank you. Thank you guys so much, for both what you said and just for having me on here today. And I'm like, I'm honored to be on the podcast. I really love what you guys are doing. And I also would be remiss if I didn't mention that I love how you said several times leading up to this, how you want to have people that are both yoga practitioners, people who maybe haven't done a lot of yoga, and people who teach yoga, because like, let's globalize this. This is the
Yes.
micro right here.
Yes.
Hey, so thank you so much for your time today. And yeah, go yoga.
Go yoga. Much love, you guys.
Go yoga chat.
Thank you so much.
Chat. You guys have a
I'm
great
coming
night.
to take your cycle class. I need to get in that
Please do.
room.
Yes, let's
Please
schedule it.
do.
Don't go without me. Do not go
No,
without.
we'll go together and we'll die together. It'll be fun.
Yay.
It'll
All
be.
right. Well, peace, love,
Bye.
Oh my God.
Bye,
adios.
Mom.
Oh yeah, we didn't say hi.
Bye.
Bye, mom. Bye, mom.